welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, to WXR. That's Wrestling
In the
X-Pound
morning.
Radio. I will be your host for this week, Marcus Shadow. Joining me, of course, as always, Mr. James Phoenix,
Yellow.
Chriz, aka The Mole,
Right.
and the sad gamer, Richter Hammer.
Hi-yo.
Yes, that's right, folks. It's the same group of knuckleheads. And
Please
this week,
excuse please excuse the potential volume of the sad gamer. He's having some headset issues. He will attempt to speak as loudly as possible.
yep. Luckily for us, he's got no kids tonight, so that is a possibility. But this week we will be discussing the special guests in WWE since WWE has started doing that in more recent years. Now, in the past, they've had special guests, but they've been more sparse, usually around pay-per-view time. Of course, WrestleMania, they always have at least one guest at WrestleMania, or at least they have. Not so much in the recent years, but in the recent years, these special guests have been showing up on primarily Raw, sometimes SmackDown. So let's open it up. What do you guys think of WWE and their special guest host program?
Honestly, a lot of times it can be cool. I may not enjoy seeing it all the time. I mean, it doesn't always please me. However, I can understand it because it gets them exposure across a wider audience, which can help the numbers go up. And if the numbers go up, it can help the program improve.
This is true. Mr. Phoenix?
Yeah, I think there can be positives and negatives to having guest stars on the show. If they're having a guest star on the show is something you do something special to get to encourage people to tune in and get ratings up, and it gives you an opportunity to do special, unique storylines you wouldn't necessarily get to do all the time. Especially if the guest stars either have something in common with or some type of or perhaps if they know certain superstars or have commonalities with them that can be exploited for the benefit of the show, or if they're just generally somebody who is very knowledgeable about the WWE who could easily, fit in with the group, it can work out very well. On the opposite hand, if it's somebody who clearly is only there because they're getting a paycheck, doesn't really care about the WWE, doesn't really know what's going on, can't pronounce superstar names properly or what have you, it can really be a disaster.
This is true. Mr. Hammer?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with James. I do like it when they have some of them, but I prefer when they have less flavor of the month people, like no Snooki stuff like that. That's stupid. But when they had like the Muppets, that was awesome.
And in all fairness, when she appeared at the WrestleMania she appeared at, she showed more athletic talent than half the Divas roster.
Still, I don't want her there. She's not important.
Well, she may become important because isn't she in WWE developmental at the moment?
Oh God, I hope not.
That was a rumor. That never actually happened.
And
Okay.
also, she showed more athleticism than most of the divas because WWE doesn't use most of the divas properly.
This is true.
There is that as well. Now, do you guys think that WWE has moved toward the special guest host and special guests in general in the more recent years as kind of maybe a Hail Mary, so to speak, in terms of, well, our ratings are going down and we're so boneheaded, we're not going to change our ways, so fuck it, we're going to throw celebrities at the problem.
Kinda. Although, to be fair, like you mentioned, they've always used celebrities. Yeah, they've been a little rarer, but it's a case of it seemed to work and it seemed to benefit them. Why not? Because at the time they were brought in as quote special guest hosts, WWE was meant to be trying to at least build up some new talent, and the way you can do that is making them as exposed as possible.
This is true. This is true. I don't know.
However, they did kind of milk a dead horse with that. Like when we
Yeah.
had like the fucking Three Stooges people hosting, and some of the hosts were just like, why? I mean, it says, oh, and one of the hosts didn't even turn up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it felt like, at least back when they started doing this and they were doing this more regularly with the guest hosting, that they were doing it for one of two reasons. One, for the money, because let's face it, yeah, they have to pay for the guests to be there, but in turn, the guest hosts being there bring in more revenue for WWE, and money's always good. And two, because they started doing it regularly, to me, sometimes it felt more like they had a special guest host that particular night because they felt they had to, as opposed to this is a guest they wanted on there.
And I could agree with that.
Which I don't think is a good thing. I think if they're going to do the guest host thing, and like you guys said, I do like the special guest hosts when it's not continuous, when it's not consistent, when it's when it's there for a reason other than to have a special guest host. Like with the Muppets, I think that was kind of cool because it was special. It was, to me, that show felt less like they're there because they needed a special guest host or because they thought it would bring a lot of money, and it felt like there was a reason to have them there because they integrated them into the show, and that also shows that WWE kind of wanted them there and they cared about their guest host. Whereas some other guest hosts, it didn't feel like they really wanted them there or that there was a point for them to be there aside from exposure, money.
Yep.
Yep.
Now, the reason we're discussing this week is because, as those of you who've been following WWE know, they're having another special guest host tomorrow, which is Monday, for Monday Night Raw. And so I pose to you guys, how do you feel about that? And do you think going back to the special guest host format is the right move for WWE? Do you think it's, quote, what's best for business, unquote?
I will say I had forgotten they were doing a host tomorrow. Which, just FYI, this was filmed for Sunday right after the pay-per-view because it's not going up the Sunday afterwards. That's why it may be a little bit confused for some of you. But yeah, who is the guest host next week or tomorrow?
I think it's
Michael
tomorrow
Strahan.
night. Yes, former retired NFL great and co-host of Live with Kelly and Michael Strahan.
It's the guy that Crispy was asking who the hell that was, and you had no answer.
Yeah, I'm gonna say don't much care for NFL, so
Yeah.
I mean, if any of you here watch the NFL and stuff and you like it, that's cool. It's just worldwide, like over here where I don't really see much football and stuff like that. It's like, I don't have much interest in it.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. Does it shock you they got him on? We know how much Vince loves football.
Right, but the question is, how do you feel about them going back to special guest hosts in general? Do you think it's the right direction? Should they decide to make this a regular thing again? Do you think it's, quote, what's best for business, unquote?
It could be best for business. I will say, to answer Jim's question, didn't surprise me that much. What was it, like 2, maybe 3 years ago? They had some washed-up footballer who's now an actor hosting WrestleMania.
Ha! Touche. Yeah, and I think it depends on if they're going to do it like every single week. I think if they had a special guest maybe like once a month, that might be cool. But if they start doing it every week again, depending on who they get and how they use them, it could get very old and stale again very quickly.
Yep, and I will say I may have made the joke with obviously with The Rock. I still like The Rock. I will say some of the best guest hosts they got during the guest host program, in my opinion, were former wrestlers. Like when they had The Rock host WrestleMania, that was kind of cool. Or even cooler, Bret Hart hosted Raw.
Mm-hmm.
Bret fucking Hart hosted Raw. That's kind of cool. I'd like to see him go more in that regard. Let's see, like, I don't know, how about we see, like, Scott Hall come back and host it? Or just for laughs, how about Ultimate Warrior hosting Raw?
That'd be the most amazing thing ever.
Randy Orton, you will feel the power of Destrucity.
No, what needs to happen, because doesn't he teach a college class? If they did Ultimate Warrior, he needs to be talking like Matt Stryker did when he was the teacher, all the way through until the end, where like the authority beats him up. Then he just needs to take off just rip open his shirt and start going, oh, against the ropes, and then cuts an Ultimate Warrior promo like he's back.
Yeah, there you go. That'd be pretty awesome.
That'd be awesome. And then he once again no-sells the pedigree.
Yes.
Yes.
Then he whips out a copy of 2K14.
That'd be hilarious if we tried to hawk that game.
But no, I was being partly serious.
Have you seen the promo of him hopping the game?
We've all seen the live action promo of him promoting the game. But yeah, I was saying I was being partly serious. I would enjoy it if maybe there's some wrestlers out there who can't really wrestle nowadays and don't have much for them to do. It would be cool to see them come back as host.
I'd like to see
That's all.
DDP come back as a host.
Yeah, that's always cooler than some of the hosts. I mean, don't get me wrong, some of them like Seth Green and Hugh Jackman got involved in it because they were fans of it. However, for every one of them, there was like 5 of them who just didn't give a shit. So it's like
Yeah.
I'd kind of like to see some of the actual wrestlers come back.
Yeah, or at least have whoever the special guest host make sure they're actually fans of WWE. Because you're right, a lot of them felt like they were there just to hawk their own shit and they didn't care about WWE. It's like, whatever, it's fake wrestling. We're here to hawk our movie.
Yeah, it's unfortunately that's what a lot of them are because they just don't. They're exactly they're using it as a promotional platform and because they don't know much about the wrestling. It doesn't exactly play well. Whereas the ones that actually like, you know what, either A, they're fans of the product and they want to put in their best effort, or B, they just don't give a crap and they're just gonna have fun with it because hey, it's silly fake wrestling. Are usually the better guests. Like I guarantee you, Hugh Jackman probably knows jack shit about WWE. He's like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna go out here, I'm gonna laugh, I'm gonna have fun, and I'm gonna punch somebody in the face.
Hugh Jackman is a fan of WWE.
Is he? Okay, I didn't know
He
that.
mentioned on one of the interviews and stuff like that when they were talking to him that he's always been a fan of WWE, and he said, and he even said, I think it was this one may have been on this bit may have been on the 100 greatest moments of Raw or whatever, but they had him on his little bit talk about it because he came back to do it. And he mentioned, yeah, when I was guest host of Raw, it's amazing. I've been in so many films and stuff like that, but none of my family gave a shit. But the second I mentioned I was going to be in WWE, my brother's like, yes, now you've made it.
I got to punch Ziggler. Yes, now you've made it.
Yep.
Now you're my brother.
Or even if it's someone that doesn't care about the product or someone that doesn't really want to have much fun with it, how about getting someone that can actually act and not really care what's going on all around them as long as they appear well?
You mean
Like,
someone
for
who could
example-
actually fake it and make it believable?
Yeah, like for example, as much as I don't know whether or not he's a fan of wrestling, I'm not going to put words in his mouth and say he's not or he isn't, but let's just assume hypothetically that someone like, I don't know, Mark Hamill, let's just assume he's not a fan of wrestling. We saw him in episode 6 of Star Wars basically act and make believable a shitload of puppets that kind of ruined the 6th film for me, but he was one of the best parts of it, and he made them believable. When Yoda died, you believed this puppet had actually just died because he gave himself over to it so much. If you had a guest host that did that in wrestling, like let's say, I know, like Undertaker's around, the lights are going off, and they actually sell that they believe it's this supernatural entity, you would get so engrossed in what you're watching, and it would be fun. I don't care if they don't give a shit. I don't care if they've been a fan of it. If they got that involved and they actually took it seriously.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, if they made you believe it. Absolutely. That's
It's
why
like-
you need, actual bona fide actors in there, like Hugh Jackman, as opposed to, I don't know, Snooki.
Mm-hmm.
Although she's an actor, as most of her reality TV was staged.
Yeah.
She's a very good one.
And
She's
and,
not.
and in all fairness to actors, sometimes the actors either are just not good or B, they get into it and it just goes way too far. Cough, WWE champion David Arquette. Cough.
Yeah.
I think the best ones to get for hosts, the best actors to get, are the ones who are in great physical shape and maybe kind of know how to fight. I mean, that's a big reason why Hugh Jackman was such a great host, because not only was he a fan and he's a great actor and he made you believe it, he's in great shape and kind of does know how to fight, so he made it believable when he fucking knocked Ziggler out.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's like, I will say, I was completely disappointed by the MacGruber people.
MacGruber.
Yeah, MacGruber, man. When we had MacGruber, or whatever the fuck it was called, on the wrestling, and I know one of them or 2 of them or whatever were from that Saturday Night Live.
Yes.
They're great at improvising and shit. They looked fucking pathetic compared to the wrestlers. It looked like they couldn't improvise to save their life, and it's like, clearly they just didn't give a shit. And that kind of disappointed me. 'Cause I was like, these people are hailed as coming from Saturday Night Live, which is held up there as the great improvs, and they can't keep up. They can't keep up with people like John Cena at improv. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's not to say John Cena can't do improv. I mean, I'm not insulting him in that regard. I'm just saying these people have got improv for a living. That would be like if I was to show up in a boxing ring and beat the living shit out of Mike Tyson. That shouldn't happen.
No, it shouldn't. And the even more ironic thing about that is that it hasn't happened all that recently. But if you go back to, say, I think it was either the late 90s or the early 2000s, and you watch the handful of episodes of Saturday Night Live that were hosted by The Rock, where he brought a handful of superstars with him, they're fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say, don't you mean if I was to watch a repeat of it, not literally go back, because you're confusing me with someone who actually has Edge and Christian's time machine?
Fair enough. But yeah, I remember the specific episode where The Rock was hosting the show, and he brought Triple H, Big Show, Foley, and I think one other dude.
Big Show was
And-
awesome.
And they were just doing crazy stuff in the skits, and they beating each other up and destroying the set with the fake weapons. It was hilarious.
Big Show had the best part of that skit where he just turns to the camera and does the double thumbs up with the grin. I'm just like, yes, that's hilarious. But yeah, now some of the WWE superstars are actually pretty good actors. They're pretty funny.
Heck, to be honest, it's probably not going to be a good movie, but based on the promo that they showed during the stream there, I think that Christmas movie coming up with The Miz he's probably going to be awesome in that movie.
This is
I
true.
will mention what I mentioned to Crispy while that was on. I don't think that's going to be a good movie. However, I don't think that's going to be the worst Christmas movie either, because of how many generic, horrible Christmas movies there is out there.
This is true. Fair enough.
All right, well, let me pose another question to you guys. Who was your favorite special guest host during the guest host era? Let's go with Jim.
That's a tough call. The Muppets were certainly very, very good. That was a very special night, just the way they combined that seamlessly. And you can tell the reason it worked is because they let the Jim Henson people write the fucking script. So you knew that was why it worked, because they actually know how to write, unlike the WWE writers. That was really, really good. I did like that. I also enjoyed, what was the other one? There's nothing in particular that I really liked. Pee Wee Herman was kind of funny. I remember that one. The big Pee Wee, that was kind of clever. And then there was one other one I really liked that I thought was cool. I don't remember what the hell it was. For the life of me, I can't remember exactly. Who the hell?
You're looking it up.
Oh, the one with the dude from Psych.
Ah.
That was pretty funny because the other dude couldn't show up, and they had him like on the phone and shit because he had the actual star of the show had to go have like emergency appendix surgery, so he couldn't show up. So they only had the black guy. That was hilarious. That was a pretty good show because they improv all around that and made it work. It was pretty darn good.
Fair enough. Mr. Hammer.
Yeah, Pee Wee Herman was good. Hugh Jackman was good, but I think I have to go with the Muppets just because that one was so well done, and it they really treated the Muppets as Muppets, not like, oh, it's a guy with a hand up the puppet's butt, and it was funny, and it's at first it seemed like an odd combination, but they made it work. So that was my favorite.
Well, I think what really helped and what really sold it is the fact that the WWE superstars and divas sold it, and they sold it well.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, and I got to one more. I forgot Shatner.
Yeah, he was pretty good. That was pretty hilarious.
I'm a sexy boy. Sexy boy.
We need WWE to release a collection of those, just all those little vignettes. But anyway, Chriz the Mole.
We'll say if we're only going guest host era, then I will say the Muppets were pretty damn good. I do agree with everyone there, but my favorite was Seth Green. Only because he got so into it. His little face was just so lit up when he was out there, like he was like a kid at Christmas. And I was like, "It's Oz from Buffy," and he's having the time of his life. That makes me think, yes, I want to see this guy win. He's like such an underdog, like Daniel Bryan and stuff like when he's in this
Yeah.
matchup. But he was so happy with it. It was like, yes, okay, I want to see more of this guy.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah,
But-
he was
that.
good.
Are we allowed to say favorite guests of all time?
Go for it.
All time.
Just because I know Richter wanted to mention one of these. My favorite guests of all time are the bizarrely stupid. I love the ones that just don't make any sense. Like from WWE, it has to be the Ninja Turtles appearing on the balcony at Hell in a Cell. And from
Yeah.
WCW, Chucky hosting WCW, or at least interrupting. I think it was Scott Steiner. It was fucking hilarious. Chucky interrupting WCW superstars. It was so like, what the fuck? This shouldn't happen. We know this is fake, but it's so fucking hilarious to see.
Indeed. Jim,
Indeed.
Richter, your favorites of all time, if you have them.
Mm. Well, I haven't been watching as long as any of you guys. It's pretty well documented in these. But in terms of overall favorite guest host, I mean, it's really, I'm trying to think back to some of the oddball ones that kind of came out of nowhere that were just kind of cool to see.
Oh, well, you're
Well,
thinking.
while I don't,
Oh, go ahead.
while I don't explicitly remember it, Mike Tyson, obviously. I didn't quite start watching until after that, but I've seen enough footage to know that that was freaking awesome. Let's see. I can go over to Richter. I'll let you know if I come up with any more.
All right. Richter Hammer.
Hmm.
Mole said you had one you wanted
Well-
to mention.
Well, I don't know if it was my favorite, but definitely one of the weirdest things was when RoboCop was on WCW because he just
Yes.
that
It's gotta be RoboCop. It's gotta be RoboCop.
was hilarious. Like someone told me about that, and I was like, no, it didn't. I looked it up, and I was like, oh my god, it did. And he was like, they were like, look how threatening he is when he's slowly walking. Like it was just so awesome.
I will say, I actually own that pay-per-view on VHS, Rick. The one where he goes around like rips the fucking cage off. The little mini cage. It was hilarious.
Yeah, my favorite guest though still has to be the Muppets. It was so seamlessly integrated, and both sides sold it to the point that you believed like they were real kind of. I mean, they're the Muppets, you know, they're puppets, but still, it was sold and made believable, which went a long way to making it a great show, and it was funny. Of course, Hugh Jackman, another one of my favorites. I love that one. And
I was
another-
kinda shocked.
Another host that I really like that nobody mentioned, I'm kind of surprised, Bob Barker.
He was good. He was good.
You can't
I
go
did
wrong with
like
Bob.
him, but I haven't seen much with him besides like I think it was Happy Gilmore, which
Yeah.
means I'm not that exposed to him because the shows he hosts over here they're hosted by our hosts.
Yeah, he's hilarious. Come on, Bob Barker and Chris Jericho. Enough said.
You see, I say I was kind of surprised you said that only because I thought your favorite host of all time would have been The Rock, as it led to him coming back to wrestle.
He was okay, but it was PG Rock, so it wasn't as funny.
He still said bitch.
He did. He also gave us Fruity Pebbles.
Is that
Mm.
any more silly than strudel?
True. Of course, the best thing he gave us was John Cena's Lady Parts. But yeah, so let's end this out, round it out, by hearing your guys' opinions on where you'd like to see this go, or if you think the WWE should even continue this path of guest.
Can I just, before we go through, I just want to mention, we're talking about greatest guest stars. I think we do need to throw a little honorary mention out to one of the earliest, most well-known guest stars, Mr. T.
Mr. T.
A pin in a fool that doesn't remember Mr. T.
Google.
And Mr. T and
Exactly.
Pete Rose, the chicken, that got
Oh,
tombstoned
Pete
by
Rose,
Kane.
God. Yeah.
Yeah, and didn't he keep coming back and Kane kept kicking his ass?
Yeah, that's back when Kane was cool.
Yeah, it's like
That's a recurring joke to this day.
yeah, it's like it was still hilarious with what was his name? I think it was Drew Carey trying to bribe his way out the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
But where would I like to see it go, Marcus? Honestly, the guest hosting, like I said, I'd honestly like to see it used to further the exposure of some of the older wrestlers that we haven't seen, which they won't go this route, I don't think, but the video games talk about the past. They have the Hall of Fame. They have loads of people who can't wrestle under Legends contract. Why not let them host? Like, imagine Raw hosted by the $1 Million Man and IRS one night, and then the next night, like I said, it's hosted by like fucking Scott Hall, or the next night it's hosted by Roddy Piper and stuff like that. It would be so much fun.
Hogan.
Yeah, Hogan would be cool.
Hulk Hogan, coming for you.
Pretty
Yes,
much.
I'm not going to end that quote. not on a recorded session. No.
Eh.
But fair enough. James Phoenix or Richter Hammer. Your final thoughts?
Well, I kind of would like to see it come back, but very limited. So definitely not every week. You know, I'd like to keep it more special. But I actually really like Mole's idea to bring back like older wrestlers. I think that would actually be a really cool way to bring them back and have them do something. And especially, then like when it's like, oh, we're going to the hometown of this guy, and you're like, ooh, maybe he'll be the special guest. Like the host. That'd be pretty cool.
It's
Hmm.
me.
Yeah.
It's me. It's DDP.
It would, and if they did it right as well, they could also use it as a testing ground. And if one of them turns out to be a really great guest host, they can make him a GM or something.
It could. That could certainly work. Mr. Phoenix.
Yeah, I can agree. I think you could, like I said, I can certainly see it. I think they should pursue it if they don't do it all the time. I would say if they wanted to do a special guest thing, it could be like maybe once a month. They have a special guest, like in the middle of the month somewhere, and have somebody show up. Depending on where they are and what they're doing, have somebody pop in. Maybe they could tie it into a storyline, or even if it's just for fun to do random. Like one thing they could do is they wanted to have special guests, but not make them the focus of the show. I think would be beneficial because when they were the focus of the show and they supposedly had the power, that made it worse. It was better when they realized it was stupid and just had them on there as a secondary thing while still having the actual authority figures wielding the power. So I think if you're gonna have them on, have them come on and do skits here and there, do a funny little bit, maybe accompany somebody to the ring for a match, but don't make them the focus of the show, because that's what made them intolerable. If anything, with what they've been doing recently with the stuff in the backstage area, what you could do is if you want to have something funny, have the recurring guest host show up with the primetime players to hawk merchandise every week. It'd be hilarious.
That'd be hilarious. And I will say as well, if we're going with the old wrestlers thing, this may be a little controversial. I don't mean this in a bad way. Don't make it HBK. The reason I say that, I like HBK. I really love HBK. Hell, he was the quote face of the company during part of my favorite era. However, I'm kind of sick of him popping up every week. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's cool. At first, it was cool. It's like, yes, it's HBK. He's back. Yes. Now it's like, oh, yay, HBK's here. It must be Monday.
Yeah.
If he stopped showing up, I would care more when he's not there. I don't know if any of you agree with that one.
That makes sense. But when your best friend is the COO and you're only a phone call away.
I know, but it's like, for example, when they had like Austin. I think Austin hosted the Raw, or at least he was on there for Tough Enough. I may not like Austin, but that was a lot cooler than seeing HBK return for like the 10th fucking time this year.
They need to bring back Tough Enough hosted by Austin.
They need to make it hosted by The Rock via satellite, like a workout DVD.
There you go.
Just afterwards.
People would buy that.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Don't make it, a weekly thing. Keep it a little bit sparse. Keep it special. I think if they go with the old wrestlers idea, those who cannot really wrestle anymore, but otherwise are fine and can do whatever, you could feasibly put them, quote, into power, unquote, because unlike those who weren't wrestlers, those who aren't in the business, they can make it believable that they are in fact in power for that night. Whereas everybody else, they're just going off a damn script because they don't know any better. They don't know what the fuck they're saying.
Yeah, very true.
I agree. Uh, that's why, like I mentioned it before, my favorite guest host of all time was Bret Hart, but I was going by guests that weren't actually wrestlers. My favorite guest was Bret Hart because I'm sorry, when they said Bret Hart was showing up on Raw, I was so fucking excited. That's probably the most excited I've been for wrestling for fucking years because it's like Bret fucking Hart on Raw. It's awesome.
And now he comes back like every couple of months.
He does, but he's still not back as much as HBK. It's like during the pay per view when I was like, okay, this pay per view is kind of cool. They cut up top and there's Bret Hart, and I assume like it's Bret Hart. Come on, it's Bret Hart. Hey, champ. I love that.
It's gotta be Brett.
Yeah.
This is true. Well, there you have it, folks. That's our opinions on WWE and special guests and special guest hosting. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you. And until next week, have a good night, everyone.